I had a few new customers this month and you all ordered the Valentine mini trio. So I'm gonna do a fairly quick tutorial on paint techniques. If you ordered the wood only kits, you can go ahead and paint however you're used to, but I'm just gonna show you the way that I do it in case you ordered the all-inclusive kit. So the first thing you do is you open up the box that your kit came in because you're gonna use that to dab paint onto. Your paint obviously comes in the little cups. I just poured mine directly onto my box. So we're gonna start with this mailbox backer, and I painted that a light blue. So you're gonna take one of the larger wedges and you're gonna lightly dip it into the blue paint, and then dab up and down on your box to remove the excess paint. You don't want a whole bunch on your wedge, otherwise you're gonna get really big globs and it's not gonna go on smooth. It's better to do light, like multiple light coats. Usually you're done within 2 coats. And now I'm just going to dab up and down on the backer to paint it. You don't have to paint inside the etching because that's gonna be covered with the mailbox. However, I am going to paint this part because as you can see, you see that through the mailbox. So I am going to paint this little rectangle piece. So I'm just going to continue this. Once I'm done painting this part, I'm gonna let it dry. Then I'm gonna take the sandpaper that came with your kit, if you ordered the all-inclusive, I'm gonna very, very lightly sand just to smooth it. If you don't wanna do this step, I don't think most people do that, but if you just wanna take a couple extra seconds just to make it really smooth, then I'm gonna do a second coat and set it aside to dry. I'm gonna do that off camera to save some time. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Once you're happy with your coat of paint, once it's all covered, you're gonna take that same light blue wedge and you're gonna get the darker blue paint and you're going to just dip that edge in there so that it's still partly the lighter blue. And then I'm just going to blend it out in like a rainbow arc until most of that excess paint is off. I don't want giant globs of that paint. So as you can see, it's mainly blended in there. And then I'm gonna very lightly dab around the edges just to kind of shadow that out. Reload once you notice that it's not depositing a little bit of that darker shade. And as you can see, I'm just so lightly dabbing and going back and forth over it just to blend it so it's not so harsh. And just the edges are that shadowed color. Now I'm gonna set that aside to completely dry, and I'm going to do the lighter pink color next. I'm going to do the backer of the heart, the mailbox, and then these 2 rectangle pieces that go on the mailbox. So I'm just gonna do a little portion. The rest I will do off camera just so that you can see. So you're gonna take another one of the larger wedges, dip it in that light pink color, and you're gonna wanna dab almost all of that paint off. And in order to paint over the etching, we don't wanna get paint inside the etching. So we're going to so lightly dab over the etching. And again, the key is to get most of that paint off of your wedge before you go over it. If you have a whole bunch of excess paint on your wedge and then you go right over the letters, the paint is gonna go right into the dip. Okay, so I'm just going to continue with the rest of the light pink pieces and lightly sand that when it sits dry, give it a second coat, and we'll come back for the next step. Once you have the full coverage that you would like, and once your pink pieces are dry, you're gonna take that same wedge. I'm gonna dip that pink off. I had quite a bit on there. And you're just gonna take the very edge of it like that and dip it into the red paint, and then go ahead and do your rainbow arc. I'm going to do this a lot because the red is such a darker color than that pink. So I wanna make sure that it is good and blended. And then I'm going to very, very lightly dab the edges of my backer. And I'm just going to continue this so that it looks like that. I'm going to continue it along the outer edges of this backer. I'm going to go around the edges of the mailbox, and I'm even going to do it around the edges of these two pieces. Then I'm going to go ahead and just dab and paint the colors of all of the rest of the pieces, and I will come back when it's time to do the finish work. Once you have all of your pieces painted and everything is perfectly dry, I polka dotted these two backers. So if you'd like to do that, I'm going to show you how. So get your white paint, and I use a dotting tool. These come in a pack on Amazon. I've linked them before, but they have different sizes. I usually use a larger size to dot. You can also use like the back of a mini paintbrush, or you can use a paint pen if you have one. But all you do is you dip into the white paint and then dot. So I usually do the four corners, and then just be really careful once you dot them that you don't drag your hand over and smear all of your dots. So make sure that you keep your arm raised. And then I go ahead and dip in the middle of each side. This doesn't have to be perfect. And then I dot into the middle of those dots that we already have now. And then I'm just gonna work in a line and, oh, I forgot one, and go down. So this one, I'm going to go ahead and dot here. Now, although this is going to be covered, this will help me. You can either dot it or not. It just helps me keep track. And again, I'm keeping my arm raised. Okay, none of those are going to show, but the reason I did that is for this next step. Now I'm going to dot in the middle of each square. So there's a square, so I'm gonna dot here. Here is a square, so I'm going to dot here. This is a square of dots, so I'm going to dot here. Now, if you would rather just polka dot randomly, that's absolutely fine. There's no really rhyme or reason. I just like to do it this way because it keeps it somewhat even, but also still makes it look random. Now I'm going to very carefully pick this up and make sure that you're not smearing it, and set it to the side to dry. I'm going to do that same exact technique on this backer, and then once it's completely dry, we will come back to put everything together. While I'm waiting for those polka dots to dry, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did the highlights to my hearts. I use a paint pen. It makes it so much easier to do the line. You can also use your dotting tool or the back end of your paintbrush to dip and then kind of drag. But on each heart, all I do is I use the paint marker to just kind of make like a highlight. I just drag the line to about there. And then I use my dotting tool. I use a smaller one, and I dip it into the white paint, and then I just do a few dots on the end of that drag mark. This is completely optional. If you don't have a marker or you don't want to do this, then there is no requirement. Once these are dry, we will go ahead and take the adhesive off and put all of our pieces together. When you're sure that everything is dry, we're gonna start with the mailbox backer. You can use your fingernails, or you can use, like if you have a sharp pair of tweezers, that's what I like to use. And you're going to peel off the adhesive backing of the mailbox. Then you're just gonna use this etching on the backer as a guide. Line that up. And then press down firmly to stick. Now, if you're not 1000% sure where everything goes, very lightly lay it down, because then you can have some wiggle room to move it around. Once you press it down, it's stuck. It's not gonna go anywhere. So make sure that you're sure everything is where it needs to be. And then I'm just looking to see which heart fits in there. Make sure that you have the correct one. Peel that adhesive off and press the heart in there. Then we're gonna do the envelope. Same thing, match it up to the etching on that mailbox. Press. That last heart we're gonna put, oh, I have a little hair stuck on the back of the adhesive. Okay, and then these rectangle pieces, the thicker one goes like, just line the edges up. So I haven't pressed it down. So as you can see, I can peel it back up. So just make sure that you're not pressing down at all until the edges are lined up how you want them to be. And then press down. And then this one just goes, line up the edges there. Sorry, I'm picking it up because if I look closer, my head will block your view. Okay, and then we have 4 scallop pieces. The bigger pieces go to the heart backer. These smaller ones are what we're looking for. Pay attention to the directions of the hearts. You want the hearts to be facing the correct way. You want them up. So line that up with the edges of that bottom rectangle piece and press down. And then get the other scalloped piece. And press that down. And then this piece is finished. Now let's look at our heart. Same thing with the scalloped edges. You don't want to flip them around so that your hearts are upside down, unless that's what you want. So just make sure that you have them laid out correctly. I already stuck my heart down, so you can do that as well. Make sure that they are lined up with the top and the edges. Sorry, my dogs are playing in the background. You can probably hear them. Okay, now I am not going to put the button on right now. I'm going to splatter these pieces first because if you got the all-inclusive kit, I did include a couple of these ribbon pieces for you. So we want to put that on obviously at the very end when everything's dry. So don't attach the button. I'm going to press pause and we're going to move over so that we can splatter these. Okay, I have a few projects going on here, so ignore all of the pieces, but I just want to show you how to splatter. The first thing you're going to want to do is lay down a disposable tablecloth, or if it's warm where you are, you can go outside. This is just going to make a mess, so you just want to make sure that you properly prepare. You're going to get your mini paintbrush. If you didn't do an all-inclusive kit, you can use an old toothbrush, really anything that has the stiffer bristles. So I'm just going to barely dip the very ends in white paint. I'm going to go off on the edge of my tablecloth and flick it a couple times just to get most of that paint off. And then I'm going to start up high above my project and just start flicking. And then as the paint starts to kind of dissipate, I'm going to get a little bit closer. Same thing. I'm going to dip just that edge, flick off onto the side just to get most of that paint off. Start high and then start moving a little bit closer to get that splatter effect. Now you can do as little or as much as you want. I always suggest doing a lighter coat first because you can always go back and add more, but you can't really take it away unless you go back and paint back over it, which is kind of a pain. So, and that's it. You're just gonna continue that. Once it's completely dry, then take your ribbon pieces. You're gonna need a hot glue gun. And I just put a little dollop of hot glue on the bottom, lay one piece of ribbon, put a dollop of hot glue, lay the other piece, put a dollop of hot glue on your button. You are gonna wanna take the adhesive off first and put that right on top of the ribbon. If you wanna see that or if you have any other questions, then please reach out to me. But I'm gonna end this now just for the sake of time, but let me know if you have any questions.